بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك وأناخت برحلك. عليكم مني جميعا سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. رسالة الله صلوات.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
Allow me to start the first night of this program with a story. The story is not an ordinary story that you would hear from a storyteller or a novelist. The story is told by Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam. His story comes with a little bit of background. His story is filled with wisdom. His story is designed to make us familiar with the divine laws that govern the universe. Because we as humans are endowed with the tools and instruments to understand the world around us. You want to study biology, chemistry, psychology, physics? You have the tools. But when it comes to the divine knowledge, when it comes to getting familiar with the divine laws, you have to go through the proper channels. And that's why Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam says, travel to the west, travel to the east. You will not find the divine knowledge except in this house, the house of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. The Imam says that during the time of the Israelites, now the reason why there is so much emphasis on the Israelites, their stories, what happened to them. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions the name of Moses 100 times in the Quran. And He mentions his story several times in the Holy Book, in the Quran. The reason is because there is a verse in the Quran that says that this nation, the nation of our Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, will be following in the footsteps of the Israelites. So if you want to find the solutions to many of our problems today, the problems that afflict the nation, study their story. See what happened to them. See what they did. لَتَرْكَبُنَّ طَبَقًا عَنْ طَبَقٍ. It's in the Quran. And they were subjected to the same divine laws that we're subjected to. So if we follow in their footsteps, we will yield the same results. Take, for example, the big rift and divide between Shias and Sunnis today. The solution is in the Quran. I remember once I was debating a non-Shia, and he said to me, "How dare you speak ill of the companions of the Prophet? How dare you Shias being critical of the companions of the Prophet? If you criticize the companion of the Prophet, in essence what you're saying is that the Prophet himself failed to discipline his own companions." I said to him, "This is mentioned in the Quran. Have you read the Quran?" He said, "I memorized the Quran." I said to him, "But unfortunately you don't understand the Quran. You need insight to understand the Quran." Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about the Israelites. When Moses left them to communicate with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on Mount Sinai, they abandoned all their beliefs and they went to worship the calf. When Moses returned, he said to Aaron, "Why didn't you do anything? Why didn't you raise your voice? Why didn't you fight for this religion?" He said, "خشيت أن تقول فرقت بين بني إسرائيل." The reason why I didn't rise. This applies to Amir al-Mu'minin. This is what happened to Amir al-Mu'minin. The exact same story. History is a reflection of the current situation that we're seeing. History is a corridor to the future. So this is why there is so much emphasis on the Israelites. The Imam says that during the time of the Israelites, there was a king in what seems to be a small kingdom. One day the king seeks the advice of the chief judge in the city. He says to him that I want someone I can rely on, someone trustworthy. I want to send on a mission to deliver a message. The chief judge said, "I have a brother who is absolutely trustworthy and reliable, someone you can trust." So he summons the brother. The brother had a wife. The entire story revolves around this woman, whom the Imam says was from the descendants of the prophets, أَوْلَدَتْهَا الْأَنْبِيَاء, suggesting that her genes played a role in shaping her character. Yes, she's not coerced to do anything, but this is a contributing factor. This is something that affects her behavior. And this applies to us as well. We might do things that not only influence our lives and the lives of our children, but also the lives of our descendants. For example, there is a hadith that one drop of alcohol ينال السابع من العقب will reach the 7th generation from our descendants. It's a double-edged sword. For example, there is a hadith that says, if you collect the food that falls on the table, on the food table, or on the cloth, as we do, as we eat on the ground, if you collect that food and eat it, instead of throwing it away, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will protect you and your descendants from poverty. And this is mentioned in the Quran. Everything the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam say originates in the Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us the story of Khidr and Moses alayhi salam. And he says they went and they built a wall. Under that wall there was a treasure. The treasure belonged to 2 orphans. Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam clarify by saying that this wasn't their father's treasure. It was generations ago, 70 generations ago, one of their forefathers was a good man. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted to reward him by protecting this treasure so that when they grow up they could make the most from the treasure. So this is mentioned in the Quran. There is a man who was killed, who was martyred by the name of Imam Zada Yahya. He's buried in Tehran today. Who was a scholar. He was killed. Many of his descendants became maraja, became scholars. They themselves might not know that the credit goes to their forefathers. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to reward him by making his children, by granting them the tawfiq to become great scholars. And the ummah is benefiting from them till today. So she is from the descendants of the prophets. The king summons him and he says to him that I want to send you on a mission. He agrees. His wife was very reluctant. She had a hunch, call it a gut feeling, that this is not going to be good. This has a basis as well in our religion. There is a hadith that says, if you pray the recommended salawat, in addition to the obligatory prayers, you pray the mustahabbat. لا يزال عبدي يتقرب إلي بالنوافل until he will see through God's lens. And he will hear things through God's ears. He will have a divine vision. Or sometimes when you're presented with two options and you don't know which path to take, the hadith says that if you ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for guidance, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will guide you through your heart. وَأُوحَيْنَا إِلَىٰ أُمِّ مُوسَىٰ. And we inspired the mother of Moses alayhi salam to throw him in the river. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can guide you through your heart. So she had a hunch that this is not going to be good. And he had to protect his wife and not leave her. There's a hadith that says, the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, that Archangel Gabriel comes down every day. He descends upon me every day. وَلَا يَزَالِ يُوصِينِي فِي النِّسَاءِ. And he keeps telling me, constantly telling me to take care of my wife. To an extent that I thought it's haram for me to even say uff to them. And uff is a word usually used to express your disapproval. The least you can say to express your disapproval of something. I can't even say uff to them. Why? Because marriage is a union that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala endorsed that union, and He entrusted you with your wife. That's why you're not dealing with your spouse, you're dealing with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's why the hadith says that you are obligated to forgive 70 mistakes committed by your wife every single day. You're not dealing with her, you're dealing with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You've been entrusted with this amanah. And if you dare to transgress the boundary of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to lay a hand to hit your wife, the hadith says, anyone that slaps his wife, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will order the angel of hell to slap him 10 times with slaps from fire. Another hadith says, he will be humiliated in front of everyone on the day of judgment. This is our obligation. You have a set of responsibilities. True, the Quran says, الرِّجَالُ قَوَّامُونَ عَلَى النِّسَاءِ, but this comes with a set of responsibilities. Now he chooses to submit his will to the king and to travel overseas. With his absence, the ordeals began to fall on her head. There's a hadith that says that tragedies and calamities befall on a mu'min quicker and faster than water from the top, than flood from the top of the valley to the bottom of the valley. You go to sleep at night and you're absolutely healthy. There's nothing wrong with you. You wake up in the morning and you have an incurable disease. We don't control our health. We don't control the world around us. That's why we need to seek refuge in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's the only thing we could do. Yes, leading a healthy lifestyle is good, a contributing factor, exercise is good, but at the end of the day, it's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who can protect you. One of the things that we could do to protect our health is by giving sadaqah to the poor people. I don't understand the physics behind it, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala somehow linked between the two. If you want to remain safe, if you want to remain protected, then give sadaqah to the poor people. Feed them. One of our most respected scholars, who was a supreme marja of his time, Ayatollah Sayed Mustafa Al-Hakim, had 10 children. He used to slaughter a sheep every single day for the protection, in exchange for the protection of his children. You can't do it every day, at least once a month, to buy your protection. That's number one. And number two, by dua. اطردوا أمواج البلاء بالدعاء. If you want to drive away from yourself the waves of tragedies and calamities, pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There is an amazing hadith that says, a person who's lying on his deathbed does not need dua more than a completely healthy person who has nothing to complain about but cannot control his health. He might lose it at any given minute. Pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's another hadith that says, if you remember me while there's nothing wrong with you, I will remember you when you're going through hardship. Dua. Her husband leaves her. The person who is supposed to stay in the city and take care of the wife of that woman is the chief judge. He comes every day and basically run errands for her. One day when he realizes that she is a very beautiful, pretty, gorgeous woman, he tries to seduce her. And she, without hesitation, says, no. Do not allow shaitan to creep into your mind. Even the thought of sin is dangerous. It will contaminate your mind. It will contaminate your aql. Shut the door, close all the windows, and do not allow the shaitan to deceive you. She says no without hesitation. So he tries and tries and tries, but to no avail. Until he says to her that I'm the chief judge in this city. You know what I could do? I could accuse you of committing adultery, and you know very well that it's punishable by Allah. She says, do whatever you want to do. And that's a big lesson for all of us. You can't say, I was pressured into this, I was cornered. If you have faith in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, God can change the circumstances. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can make the circumstances in a way to be in your favor. And this is how much faith this woman had. She said, no, do whatever you want to do. So he goes to the king and he says to him that my brother's wife has committed adultery. She's a married woman. The king says to him that you're the judge here. If you're a witness and a judge, the ball is in your court. So he goes back to the woman and says to her, look, I have the permission from the king. We'll stone you to death. She said, do whatever you want to do. I will not commit that sin. So he tells the king that it's time to stone her to death. They take her to the desert. They dig the pit. She goes inside it. And they start to throw the pebbles at her. Until they were certain that she died. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protected her. In the middle of the night, she opens her eyes. She's not dead. But she's heavily injured. She climbs out of the grave that was dug for her. And she crawls and crawls and crawls for several hours until sunrise. She finds herself in front of a sanctuary or a temple. And she faints. There was a monk inside the sanctuary. In the morning, he opens the door, he wants to leave the temple, and he sees an injured woman lying before the door. He takes her inside, and he provides her with the care that she needs. And for several days until she recovers, he realizes that this is not an ordinary woman. This is a noble woman. So he says to her that in exchange for the shelter that I'm providing you with, all I want from you is to raise my child. I have a son who doesn't have a mother. I want you to raise him. She agrees. This monk had a servant. One day he realizes that a woman is involved in the life of the monk. And he notices that she is a very beautiful woman. So one day when the monk wasn't around, he comes again and he says to her, let's commit the sin, and he tries to seduce her. She said, no, I said no before, and I will say no, and I will forever say no to this offer. He tries hard. She doesn't give in. Until he threatens her, I will kill you. She said what the magicians said to Pharaoh, اقضِ ما أنت قاضٍ. Do whatever you want to. What he does is he takes the child, breaks his neck, and waits for the monk to come. When the monk came, he said to him, did you see what this wicked woman do to your child? What did she do? She killed your son. He's your only son. And this is a tragedy that cannot be fathomed. We have a hadith that says, if a person witnesses the death of his child, death of his son or daughter, that person will go to paradise for sure. صَبَرَ أَوْ لَمْ يَصْبِرْ. Whether he displayed patience in front of this calamity or not. You know, some people go hysterical. They become hysterical when they lose their child. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that I guarantee paradise for those people, because it's a tragic calamity. So he comes home and he finds his child dead. What happened? After all the favors? Is this how you return the favor? So she told him the story. He said, look, I can't stand seeing you in the temple anymore. It's either you who did it, or if I follow your version of the story, then it's because of you. He kicked her out of the temple and gave her 20 silver dirhams. That was the currency used back then. And he asked her to leave the temple. She's a woman, she's alone. She walked and walked and walked until she reached the city. On the outskirts of the city, she saw a group of people who had gathered around a man who was placed on a cross, on the crucifix, to be crucified. So she said, what's happening? Why is he being crucified? They said, this man is in debt, and he can't pay his loan back. And this is what we do, this is the tradition. Either it was a campaign to raise funds for him, or this was the punishment. If you're in debt, you either have to pay it back on time, or this is what we do to you. Now there is a hadith that says that a pious person shouldn't remain indifferent towards the things that happen around him. If you hear in the news that people are getting killed in Iraq, or in Syria, or in Pakistan, wherever, if you could do something about it, even if it's just raising awareness about the tragedy and the atrocities committed against humanity, even if it's about just writing a tweet, or a post on Facebook, anything, you should not remain indifferent. I had a friend who once called me a few weeks ago, and he said to me, only last night that I was able to sleep comfortably. I said, what do you mean? He said, because for 40 days, the followers of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam in the city of Amorli, the city was besieged by ISIS. And ISIS are barbaric people. They hate the Shias. If they raided that city, they would butcher all the kids, all the women, and everyone there. They would behead them. barbaric animals. I couldn't sleep at night. And this is one of the characteristics of a mu'min. The Prophet says, مَثَلُ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ فِي تَضَامُنِهِمْ. It's like when one limb, one organ is aching, the entire body, you can't sleep at night. The other organs will sympathize. This is how we should sympathize with others. If there's someone in the community that needs your help, you shouldn't be indifferent towards other people's problems. This woman had this spirit. So she asked, he's in debt. How much does he need? They said 20 dirhams. And that's all she had. She said, there you go. She gave them the 20 dirhams so that they would release that man. She saved. So the man then said to the woman, look, you saved me. You don't even know me. You don't even know me. And I am indebted to you. You saved my life. And I am willing to serve you and do whatever you tell me to do. So he walks with this woman until they reach a port where they see a group of traders, men that had come from other places, with commodities to sell and to buy stuff. They had 2 boats. So he tells the woman, allow me to go to these men and work for them and raise an amount of money so I could buy food and then we could eat together. She says, I don't mind. So he goes to the traders and he says to them that I have this maid that I own, this woman that I own, and I am willing to sell her to you if you're interested. So they said, how much? And we need to see her first. He said, look, I would prefer to finalize the purchase when she's not around because I'm her master. She might not feel good, me selling her. So we'll send someone. They said, we'll send someone to check her out. And then if we're interested, we'll buy her. He said, I will sell her for 10,000 dirhams. So a guy goes, and then he comes back and he says that she's very pretty. This is what we need. He takes the 10,000 dirhams and run. Then they come to this woman. They tell her to board the boat. She said, why? They said, because your master sold you. Master? I don't have a master. They said, you either do it willingly or we'll do it forcefully. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. She can't do anything. So to be on the safe side, because they couldn't trust each other, they put her in the other boat where they had all the jewelry and all the commodities. And they board the first boat. And they moved together. Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam tells us about the behind the scenes. He says that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent a wind. The first boat capsized. They all died. And then the waves drift the second boat to an island that had everything. So she's alone in an island with a lot of jewelry. She said, oh Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I wanted to worship you. I was looking for an opportunity to worship you, and this is the best opportunity. This is when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reveals to the Prophet of the time, from the Israelites. He says to him, I want you to tell the king that you are contaminated with a major sin, a grave sin, you and the people around you. And if you want Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive you, you need to go to that island. He gave them the location. And there's someone over there that needs to pardon you before I can forgive you. And this is how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala deals with us as well. وَلَوْ أَنَّهُمْ إِذْ ظَلَمُوا أَنفُسَهُم. When you oppress yourself, when you commit the sin, جَاءُوكَ, you come to the Prophet and ask for forgiveness. And the Prophet asks Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive you, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will forgive you. That's the process. So they all go to the island. They don't recognize the woman. The first person to admit his sin was the king. So he gets up and he says that my sin is that the chief judge came up to me and said that a woman committed adultery. And I gave him the permission to stone that woman, although I didn't investigate the case further to see whether it's true or not. So that was my sin. And I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive me, and I ask you to pardon me. He says to him, Ujlus ghafarallahu lak. Sit down, may Allah forgive you. The second man was her husband, who doesn't recognize her. My sin was that I did not uphold my responsibility towards my wife and I left her. This is my sin. When I came back, I was told that she committed adultery and she was stoned to death. She was a noble woman, she was a decent woman. And I feared that it was because of me, because I left her. So she says to him, Ujlus ghafarallahu lak. I pardon you, may Allah forgive you. The third person was his brother. He mentioned his sin, that I accused her. It was an accusation. I accused her of committing adultery, although she was innocent. She said, Ujlus ghafarallahu lak. Tells you about her spirit, how forgiving this woman was. And then the third person to speak, or the fourth person to speak, was the monk. He said that I kicked her out of the temple, although it wasn't her fault. The fifth person was the servant of that monk. The sixth person was the person who was put on the crucifix. He said that my sin is, he mentioned his sin, he confessed. She said, Ujlus la ghafarallahu lak. I will not pardon you, and I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala not to forgive you. Why? You don't bite the hand that feeds you. That's common sense. The others were driven by desire. But this man was a wicked man. لن تموت نفس الخبيث حتى تسيء إلى من أحسن إليها. Is this how you return the favor? By selling me to those men? Is this how you return the favor? Then she said to them all, I want you to leave. I don't need men to be involved in my life, and I want to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala until I die. Now, what Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam did to this ummah is absolutely remarkable. Lady Fatima al-Zahra says in her Fadakiyya sermon, فَأَنْقَذَكُمُ اللَّهُ تَبَارَكَ وَتَعَالَى بِأَبِي مُحَمَّدٍ. صلوا على محمد. You were salvaged and saved by my father Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. What did the people do during the pagan era, during the Jahiliyyah? Their favorite drink was camel's urine. And they earned their living by raiding other tribes and killing them and beheading them like we see today, committed by groups like ISIS. You used to bury your daughters alive. Who saved you? Who civilized you? Other than my father Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. He gave you protection, welfare, and everything that you have is because of my father Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And you waged 70 wars against Rasulullah, all led by one man called Abu Sufyan, until the Prophet conquered Mecca, which was the stronghold of the infidels back then. He conquered the city. Instead of taking revenge for his uncle, for all the bloodshed that they caused, the Prophet said, اذهبوا فأنتم الطلقاء. You are free to roam around, to do whatever you want to do. This is how the Prophet treated them. And in Karbala, the grandson of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, someone that has the spirit of Rasulullah between his chests, Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. When the battalion came to fight him, they were thirsty. Imam al-Hussein himself, with his own hands, he quenched the thirst of his enemies. and his soldiers. But how did they return the favor? By killing the Imam, by making him thirsty and depriving him from water. That's why in a long hadith, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, I can forgive anyone on the day of judgment, save the killers of Imam al-Hussein. They knew everything, and they had everything because of Rasulullah, and this is how they returned the favor. ليس هذا لرسول الله يا أمة البغي والكفر جزاء. This is not how you return the favor to Rasulullah. That's why historians tell us that when Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam was lying on the sand dunes of Karbala, heavily wounded, Shibrul al-Jawshan, may God curse him, he came to kill the Imam. The Imam looked at him and said, أتقتلني وأنا ابن بنت رسول الله? Are you trying to kill me while you know that I am the son of Rasulullah? What was Shimr's response? He said, أقتلك وأعلم أنك ابن بنت رسول الله. Yes, I kill you. I will behead you. I will slaughter you while I know that you are the son of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. And when he mounted on the chest of Abu Abdullah, Zainab said, يومون يومون على صدر المصطفى. One day you sit on the chest of Rasulullah, and today you're on the sand dunes of Karbala, and Shibr ibn al-Jawshan mounts on your chest, O Abu Abdullah. Is this how you return the favor to Rasulullah? Hamid ibn Muslim, the famous reporter, says that after we raided the tents, I saw a little child running around, and her dress was burning. I came up to her and she said, Ya Shaykh, I ask you, have you recited the Quran? He said, yes, I have recited the Quran. She said, have you recited the verse where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَأَمَّا الْيَتِيمَ فَلَا تَقْهَرْ. Do not upset the orphans. Haven't you read this verse in the Quran? He says, yes, I have recited it. So the little girl tells Hamid ibn Muslim, I am the orphan of Abu Abdullah. أنا يتيمة أبي عبد الله. Then she says to him, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran that the only reward that I ask from you in exchange for everything that I have done to you, the Prophet is telling his nation, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us, إِلَّا الْمَوَدَّةَ فِي الْقُرْبَى. The only reward that I want from you is to be kind, to show affection and love to my progeny. Why are you mocking us? Why are you throwing pebbles at us? Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Wa sayalamu alladhina zalamu ayya munqalabin ينقلبون والعاقبة للمتقين. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive us. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bestow upon us His mercy. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us the visitation of Aba Abdullah in this life and his intercession in the afterlife. And please recite Surah Al-Fatiha after a loud salawat.